Short answer, I don't know. I think a lot of this has come and gone through my brain without a lot of thought, and I want to be able to try to condense it down. Because if you think about it from a business perspective, silo over 5 years, making no money is not a smart investment, but I want to explain to you guys why I think it's important and why I think it is a good investment and why that should be an okay reason to keep going, to continue on a non-traditional kind of countercultural kind of way of doing things. In the last few days, I've been writing a lot of grant paperwork for funding what we've got going on here, and how that's been going is I have to clarify what my whole intentions are behind Silo, what the business transactions look like, who are my audience, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff that you go into if you're writing like a business plan. And I've been meeting with a lot of cool people, creative professionals, mentors, people like that to help me try to make the best of it and also offer an outside perspective to help give some guidance and hopefully encouragement too, to help me figure out what this all means and what the actual impact of this is. Because I can only do so much from the daily upkeep perspective, but like actually measuring success is kind of hard for me to do without just being on like Instagram stories all the time, asking your opinions on things. So why this? Why me? Why now? Austin, I knew you from high school. What is this Silo creative kind of thing? Why does it matter? Why are you doing all this stuff that seems super influencery? Honestly, I hate that. Like that's something I've become. I think something that a lot of people say to me is like, oh man, I love seeing you on camera. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I love that aspect of it because it's a marketing kind of vibe. But when you say I'm an influencer, I don't know. It just kind of, does it water it down to me? I don't really know what the real visceral reaction is. Other than I know that everything is out there for the public at this point. So the concept of like failing in public is something that has been on my heart recently. On like, what does that look like? Everything that I do now, at least through Silo and business, is chained to the internet, right? And so everything that I do, whether that's seeing great numbers and hopefully seeing that, wow, we're getting new people to come every day to these capture events or joining the Discord or watching the YouTube videos or listening to the podcast, whatever the case may be. Sure, those numbers will always trend upwards, but at what point do they plateau or disappear? Or what does failure look like to me in public? And that's just as simple as like, if I were to stop posting, what does that mean? Like for the average viewer, does that mean I'm gone? Does that mean that things haven't worked out and I need to find funding elsewhere? All those things, it's like an extra weight that is put on me, and I'm thankful for it. But something that I think plays into my why is like, listen, I would love to be able to be a success story of going full-time freelance, and even more going full-time into community and community building. But that means that I'm exposing myself to people that are going to keep track of me and what I'm doing. And that just means that if things go south, they're going to know about it. And I think I've committed at this point not to be an influencer, but to hopefully just kind of run the charge of, hey, look, I'm trying to do a thing. If it works out, then it's going to pay back in dividends. And if not, I guess I have stuff to lose. I mean, technically not really. But it's kind of the risk and reward of doing it all this way. And I think at this point, I wouldn't have it any other way. It just makes sense. And a quote I have pulled up here on my laptop that kind of resonated with this topic was from Thomas Saz, which says, "Every act of conscious learning requires the willingness to suffer an injury to one's self-esteem. That is why young children, before they are aware of their own self-importance, learn so easily, and why older persons, especially in vain or important, cannot learn at all." And I think it's super cool that I have the opportunity, being so either young or open to the idea of failure, that I am able to move forward in this way. And I feel like I have less to lose than a lot of other people, which is a privileged way to go about it. And I fully recognize that. And that's so cool that we've built this over the years. So after all that prelude, let's get into the title of the video. Why this? Why me? Why now? And why this is because there is such a need for connection and community in the creative space, especially in this area. There have been other sorts of silo creatives formed way there have been very many iterations of what Silos is building in different areas of the country, all look a little bit different, but you can see that they're working because people are being unified and being brought together because of a common goal and a common need for connection. I think often, funny enough, in the name of Silo, people are siloed off from each other when they create. They're in their rooms, making the art by themselves, or editing the photos by themselves, or crocheting by themselves. And while that's great and you need that time to recharge, and I think that's a very special part of creation, is actually being able to recharge yourself that way. I think a lot of us feel drained because of the obligation to do it. But when you do it for yourself, it is a very, at least for me, a very gaining process. And so when you go into community, you are able to be the best version of yourself. And we need that in today's age. And I think at this point, for me, why this? It's a sunk cost fallacy to some regard of I've been in this for 5 years and I want to keep it going because the momentum is so strong. There's so much good happening out of Silo, whether that's the connections that you make at events and they last outside of the events. If you haven't joined our Discord, that's a great place to get connected with other creatives. I think the coolest part of this all is when I ask if there's something that you guys need or want out of Silo, you guys always come back with more things. And so these videos on YouTube, the podcast, everything that we do is a reaction to what you guys are wanting from just life in general. And I think that's really cool that we get to supply that for you guys and be a resource to creatives in the South Central PA area. And through these YouTube podcast videos can reach a lot more people. Toni Morrison said this: if there's a book that you want to read but hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. The same is true with any endeavor. If the solution you seek doesn't exist, you create it. And so when me and Gavin started this thing back in 2019 or 2018 even, there was a need and it wasn't being filled. And so Gavin took the initiative to get it started, and I've been on this journey ever since with him. And it's been so cool to actually get started on a project and continue in one direction with something for so long, because I think that's something that is not taken seriously now. And that takes us to why me? I don't know. I think I've just been called to this thing that is greater than myself, and I want to give back to the people that have given so much to me already in both preparation, learning, education, inspiration, encouragement, all of the words that you hear so often from us. I just want to give that back to people. And so the investment to me is making things like this, investing in people's lives, giving them tips that I've learned along the way from my experience, and just continuing to do that just gives me this fire that I just need to keep alight, because I think it's fueling me to do something greater in the future. And the more I can work on my efficiencies to keep going, the more and more stuff I'm able to give to the world. And going back to that first point of I'm going to do it whether I fail or succeed. And that's a part of creative expression. People always ask me, why now? Why does this matter to you now? Why are you in your early 20s spending so much time giving to other people and not receiving? And to that I say, there's a lot that I'm receiving behind the scenes, both just from YouTube. I think that is the biggest thing that I am getting from the world is other people that are educating me, and I want to distill their information as well as any information that I gather from multiple sources, bring it into my own life, experiment with that in Silo, figure out how that applies to my life, and then share it with you guys. So in the same way, in a very cyclical way actually, that people are sewing into my life just from posting on YouTube about their filmmaking, photography, community building efforts, and how to grow business and marketing and all the things that I just like watching, I guess, at this point. I'm spending 2 or 3 hours probably a day consuming that kind of content. I feel an urge to give back, but also create something that is my own flavor. And in this very Western individualistic kind of world, I think it's cool to be able to give freely and share information. And so that's been really cool. I think I was just on a call with someone this morning that was it's really interesting how you were generous with that kind of knowledge. And that didn't strike me. I'm not trying to be generous. It's just kind of the way I'm wired. But the way that we are able to give to other people in that way sparks inspiration from them. And I think it's just something that you just keep paying back in cycles, and it'll come back to you or it won't. And expecting nothing in return is what I want to make sure is known to you guys. So if I were to distill everything down that I just said, it would be, there's never going to be a right time to do something. There's never going to be a right way to start something. So you just have to go into it knowing that iteration 1 is going to fail, and iteration 2 through 99 might not look great either. But what if you get to 100 and you get to something that makes sense in your head? And so for me, Silo has just been this constant way of reinventing what it looks like to have community and be in connection with people. And just know that like taking that one step forward might feel like a risk, but it might also be the thing that brings you breakthrough in both your professional life and your personal life. Like I've grown a lot just because of Silo and getting out of my comfort zone and figuring out that, yeah, I might be a solid introvert, but because of the way that I'm running my life right now, I'm able to kind of break down the barriers that kept me from experiencing life as an introvert and the many positives that come with that. I'll always come back to my introvert roots, but being able to flex between the two of them is a really valuable thing in life. And that's a really cool thing that I've learned. So if you enjoyed this video on the what, why, and how of Silo, consider checking out this video, how to fail all of your 2025 goals. I think you'll like it. It'll be a good one. Peace.